pink or something.
It's gonna make it so pretty.
Yeah.
Yes, it's getting hauled November 12th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Before
that sounds usual.
Well, that, and I didn't want to be a very long one.
For 3 to 6.
Huh?
Yeah.
No, we're moving
That's
to
what
the
it
field
was.
house.
And I'm like,
They showed it possible to have it.
Oh, Triumph?
yeah, I think we're
Triumph Rentals, we rented those.
pretty
Yes.
excitable, I think.
Yeah.
No, I'm important again.
So we rented it until like November 15th.
3 to 6.
So I just figured that day I had to haul it off.
Yeah, they can have it all. We'll ship it. I mean,
Oh, good.
take it over to Titco. That's fine, just do it here. Yeah. Well, they got a wicked new lift over there. I was over there the other day. That's pretty cool. I gotta put a bench up.
I mean, I don't have much of a problem.
It's pretty cool.
Like I was bored, did a pretty good job stopping just in time.
Just in time. Actually, see if I can back it up and do it again, so it's not jerky. Yeah, and then somebody else just goes.
There he is.
and see it.
Tear yourself away from the buffet.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
You did really well.
Reinstall the gravel that you disturbed. I looked at it.
He couldn't drive on the line.
No, but he went over the median there.
Well, maybe, yeah, could be, yeah.
It's tight. Had to find a place to park. Much to the chagrin of his passenger, who actually owns the car, I guess.
Oh, right, there you go. Yeah.
She didn't appreciate that?
She wasn't impressed.
I can't imagine.
But I didn't even scrape.
Not for
Tell her that, that's why you buy the cars you do.
Right across. from
But hopefully they're never gonna have
It's actually.
80 people in that.
Well, right.
business.
What's down the
True.
street.
Until, well,
They need to do some fluorescent around that island, so those of us that are site challenged.
Yeah. and then-
wait till Festival of Trees. They're gonna
Just drive right over
dark.
it. That was a heck of a crowd.
It's the only one.
Oh, yeah.
we've got.
Oh, in Turkish.
Oh, boy, I'd like to have more.
Obviously, they paid well to advertise, paid everybody to come, because half of them seem to be staff.
They get about 25 employees.
Yeah, they probably didn't get it fixed. Right.
Well, you know, you can have a little bit extra.
You've been in one of our places,
Basically,
Yeah.
you can set it up to give you a lot.
Why waste money reinventing the
It's
wheel?
just that they've got a system that works.
They should do that with schools.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot bigger one.
It wouldn't help us, we built a campus.
Everybody embellished.
And that's.
Yeah, see, those are cheap. You're relying on their, you know, when you need it, you go to look.
We even put a sign today on our door. Yeah. Nobody reached, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Outside.
I was actually just.
Really? That's good to know,
Budget.
because we were sitting there talking.
Oh, there's one who's 0.
Yes.
Maybe speak to message about Tom and the Justin.
No,
Yes.
I'm the ring.
Yeah.
I tried it one year, I
The
got
sign.
Yeah, no worries, yeah, and Katie emailed me too,
Cameras and all
so.
that, so. Here, you can't do it. They do it, so probably can't.
Interesting, okay, thank you for that, I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, that's right, the clock. You're late?
I give it my tongue.
Well, good evening, everybody, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. Item number 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Moving along to item number 3, here to discuss the budget.
Do we have to?
Unfortunately, we do. Little quick disclaimer. Unfortunately, we're going to have to reset the mill rate tonight. Not something we want to do. We have found a mistake in some of our numbers, the numbers we received weren't right. And so with that, I think we've got something that everybody can, I guess, get behind for right now. And we'll see. So with that, I'll turn it over to Erica for a minute.
Yeah, this is definitely not the news we want to come to the public with. I want to start by saying, you know, I'm not an assessor, but this happened under my watch, so it's my responsibility. There's a lot of things that, in hindsight, maybe we should have done differently. As it was, in our haste to get that mill rate by October 14th, I pushed Frank very hard. Frank in turn pushed KRT. Frank did tell me he wasn't confident in the numbers, but I pushed him anyway because it's pretty simple, right? They give us 4 numbers from KRT. Those are the real estate value, the personal property value, the value of the Betty exemptions, and the value of the homestead exemptions. With that, we can calculate a mill rate. Unfortunately, one of those numbers was incorrect. The homestead number actually was overstated by 10 times, approximately, not exact. But we didn't catch it. So those numbers got corrected before we ran the bills. And when we ran the bills, it became apparent that we were going to come up approximately $2.3 million short to cover the budget that was voted on back at town meeting. Obviously, that's not something we can just ride out. Our grand total that we have in fund balance, undesignated fund balance, is $3.2 million. To just let that slide and let it go would deplete our fund balance to the point where we would have a long time to be able to catch that up, and we would lose our bond rating. We would have a very negative bond rating for years to come. It takes a long time to recover from that. So after we corrected those numbers and looked at what it actually should be to cover the budget, the mill rate would have been, had we done it correctly, $11.70 instead of the $9.81 that the board set back on October 14th. That's a pretty big chunk of money. It's almost $2. So we've come up with some options to move forward. Option number 1 would be to do nothing with that. That would require using $1.4 million out of our fund balance, which would bring it down to, bring our fund balance down significantly below the $3 million needed to keep our bond rating. We would also liquidate a $600,000 investment account. That would get us $2 million total. We think we're going to come in, I've put all departments on a spending freeze at this point. All non-essential spending has been stopped. So we're hoping that in the end of the year, we'll have between $250,000 and $300,000 left in the budget that's unspent. On the revenue side, non-tax revenues are doing better than projected, so we anticipate we'll have some extra monies there as well that will help cover the shortage. I'm giving you pros and cons on all of these options because there's good sides and there's bad sides to every option we look at. So the benefits of option 1 would be that it honors the commitment we made to the taxpayers when the mill rate was set back on the 14th. The tax bills were already printed. We could call high grade tomorrow and have them released and sent out. Over 2,000 taxpayers would have bills lower than they were last year, even after the 3% budget increase. That's more than half of our taxpayers at the $9.81 mill rate. The downside of that is because the mill rate is a function of the budget over your valuation, when we do the mill rate correctly on the next budget, it's going to jump right back up, and it will be perceived as a massive increase in the mill rate. In reality, it will just be whatever we need to cover the budget, But because this mill rate is so dramatically understated, it would look like we raised it a lot, which is not what we're doing. Even that would happen, every single taxpayer would see their bill increase in 2026 over 2025, even if we were able to keep the budget flat, which is almost impossible given that we know county and schools will probably come in with a tax increase, so we'd probably have to cut a department and cut all of our capital out to be able to accomplish that. The other downside of using large amounts of our fund balances, we do have to hold a special town meeting to approve that use. In the warrant every year, the board has authorized a certain amount of emergency spending authority. That's usually in the $300,000 range. Obviously not enough to get us where we need to be, so we will have to have a special town meeting. Option number 2 would be to use some of our fund balance and apply some of the increase to the mill rate. For us to do this, we would use $700,000 of our fund balance. We'd still need the special town meeting, and our balance in the general fund, undesignated fund balance, would drop to $2.5 million, which is about $500 below what we need, that $3 million for our bond rating, but it's a lot less than it otherwise would be. It still requires liquidation of that investment account, and the remainder to be raised in taxes would bring our mill rate to 10.5 mils, which is up about 69 cents from the 981 that was originally set. The benefit of this would be it makes up some of the shortage. It means many of our taxpayers will still see a decrease in their bills, and the increase in the mill rate won't be as dramatic when we do it correctly the next time. The downside is, although it's not a huge number, some of our taxpayers are already struggling with an increase at 981. Their bills may be lower than they were last year, unless they were one of those unfortunate groups. There's about 170 taxpayers, am I right, Frank? 170, right around there, that their property values went up much higher than the average. So even at 981, they're seeing a dramatically higher bill than they did in 2024. Again, we'll still have to hold a special town meeting to approve the use of fund balance. We do need to reprint the tax bills, which will delay getting them to people's hands somewhat, although it should be a fairly quick process, and our bond rating will still be impacted. The last option would be to adjust the mill rate to the correct number to cover the budget. And the reason this is on here as an option, because the town did vote in March for the budget that we have. And this is what we need to actually fund that budget. But it would put that mill rate up to $11.70. The pros on that would be there would be zero shortfall in our tax proceeds. There would be no need to liquidate any investments or deplete our fund balance, no special town meeting, fully funds the budget that was voted on, and the bond rating would not be impacted. The big downside's pretty obvious. For those taxpayers already seeing an increase, this could be significantly higher than it otherwise would have been, and we need to reprint the tax bills. At the bottom of the handout sheet I gave you, last year our average home value was $153,000. That has increased to $300,000 after the reval. So last year's bill on a home, the average home in Farmington, and again, it's average, so it's the low and the high, it's in the middle. Last year our mill rate was $21.45, and the bill would have been $3,282. With the 9.81 mill rate, that bill this year, with a 3% budget increase, would be $2,943, $339 less than last year, which is about a 10% decrease. The option 2 at $10.50, the 2025 bill would be $3,150. It's still a decrease of $132 over last year, down about 4%. And option 3, which is the full mill rate, the bill would be $3,510, which is about $228 more than last year, or up 7%. So that's what I present to you all as your choices to how we want to proceed and fix this. I will say that, again, we're kind of here hat in hand. I'm here hat in hand. You know, we got bad numbers from ART, but my job as your manager is to make sure that employees and contractors are delivering timely and accurate information. And just saying that I don't know assessing isn't really good enough. When they first contacted us in June and said we're gonna need at least 2 weeks more, at that point, instead of relying, you know, just putting it all on Frank's shoulders, I probably should have been pushing them a lot harder. You know, I put it on Frank to do it all, which probably isn't fair. And then when it started getting longer and longer, we probably should have looked at maybe doing a statistical reval just to go up enough to get our certified ratio up to 100%, so the people with homestead didn't lose so much money. And lastly, when Frank told me that he was not comfortable in the numbers, I really should have come back to the board and said, we're really not ready to go with this. It's really not a good number. So all I can commit to everybody is that we're gonna take steps to ensure that this never happens again.
Thank you. So,
I'll kick the can into play.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we are where we are. And I'm gonna throw KRT under the bus. They were late getting started. They were the kid with the hand in the cookie jar trying to take out too many cookies. Too many projects, not enough vendors to go around. They were a quality vendor when we hired them. They were late getting started. They changed people to be in the field on a regular basis. There was no continuity there. They were late in delivering the product. They put the pressure on us because with our current system, 10 months of spending into the year, we're anxious to get the tax bills out. They give us numbers that were supposed to be good. And yeah, shame on us for believing them. We as a board bear a responsibility in this. What is the fiscally prudent thing to do now, moving forward? We promised the people a very attractive tax rate. I would like to be able to hold that. But I don't think that it's fair for us to sit here and say, well, we screwed up, you pay the price. I want to share that blame by trying to mitigate the impact from where people thought they were. I'm looking at the option 2, which is the $10.50 tax rate, which again, as was pointed out, the numbers will show us that that's actually for the people with a $300,000 property, which was twice what the average was last year, seems to be in a reasonable range. And when I look down the list of how many $300,000 residential properties, or $400,000, it's a smaller percentage. She's given you some of the numbers. But that percentage is they still will pay less taxes than they paid last year. They will pay more than they hoped they were gonna pay, and more than we hoped they were gonna pay. If we keep it the way it is, we sail into next year. There will be some pain if we reduce what the maximum tax rate, the 1170, and go to the 1050, because we're gonna have to tighten our belts next year. If we stay at the 981, we're gonna cripple ourselves next year. We are already starting in a major hole, and it's gonna be very hard to dig out of it without some major pain and a gigantic increase next year, to come back from the 981 to where we should have been. So I think my feeling is the approach to the 1050, splitting the difference. For the majority of the people, they should not be any worse off than what they paid last year, despite a major increase in what the values are in this town. There will be those that will want to appeal. I would recommend that everybody check their record cards and check their property values to make sure that they are correctly done based upon what they have, and that they file for an abatement if they feel they were unjustly treated. And we will deal with that on a case by case. So businesses undoubtedly will have some impact on this. They have much larger average values than what the average residential, and even though they don't pay, they don't vote, I'm not interested in throwing them completely under the bus. I'm trying to mitigate some of the pain that they would feel, and knowing that we're looking at a different scenario last year. So that's, I mean, $2.50 worth of analysis on this.
Yeah, I agree with Dennis. I think that's the moderate way to go. But down the road, we've still got a problem. The number isn't where it should be, and there's gonna have to be some real belt tightening. As Matt has said, some capital things we were going to do down the road may have to be put on hold for a while. New equipment may be slowed down a little bit, but I hate to take the taxpayers to that full 11.7. I think it's gonna hurt too many people.
Yep.
Oh, I agree. First, option one, the going with the incorrect number is really just, it's not fiscally responsible and it's not honest. The only reason we would do that would be to make ourselves look somewhat better by pretending that it's a correct number so everybody's tax bills are a little lower. And then they'd get hit next year with a much higher bill. It's just, it's wrong. It's based on incorrect numbers, and we thought we could use it, but we just can't. My initial reaction was to go with the correct number, the actual accurate number, the 1170. But I've listened to a lot of conversation, and I also remembered a number of taxpayers that I talked to who asked me if there wasn't some way that we as a board could impact the mill rate at this stage of the process, even though the budget was already set. And at the time, talking to them, my answer was no. The mill rate's the mill rate, and we really can't give people relief in that area. But in this unique circumstance, it turns out we can. And this is the appropriate time to do it. People are already uncomfortable with the result of the reval, and we have an opportunity to, as Dennis said, mitigate the pain somewhat, and also be careful with next year's budget. Be prudent, be frugal, operate with a much tighter eye perhaps than we would have otherwise, and that will get us to the end of this.
Yep.
So I'm also in support of option 2.
I'd say, I am as well. I'm not gonna I feel the same as the rest of you guys do. I'm not gonna repeat everything. This will create the least amount of, hopefully, duress. And like I said, when we do our budgets this year, they're gonna be really tight. So, it's not looking forward to it, but it's a necessary evil. We did this, this is on us, and it's up to us to help mitigate it through that, so. With that, you have anything, Randy, or are we ready for motion?
Yeah, I agree with what Dick said. I mean, my first instinct was we have to make sure that we have enough money to run the town and what we need to do. And so I've had people say before we even had that, the original mill rate, boy, if you kept it under 11, it probably would be good, or about 11, it would be good. And so there was some expectation that it would have been 11. And so when we came in with 9.8, people were quite pleased with that. But we've already pushed the first number, and by saying let's raise it to 11, it would make it so that's the number that we have to work with. I mean, that's the actual number. When you do the figures, that's what it turns out to be. By going 10.5, it'll make it a little bit better this time. I'm looking at next year. I mean, either we bite the bullet now or we bite the bullet a year from now to bring that back up. I think the second option is probably the most logical way of going, just because that would hurt less now, and then we can get used to what's going to happen next year when next year's budget comes. We can look at the budget coming in this coming year, and the budget numbers. People here are going to be working on the budget. I see a lot of departments here represented. We need to make you guys aware that things are going to be business as usual, at least for a little while. But I agree, 10.5 is going to be the least difficult to get across. I do have a question. If we have a reduction in the bond rating under 3 million, what does that mean?
Means we pay a higher interest rate should we have to borrow.
Okay. If we get above 3 million at some point in the future, does that return it to an acceptable bond rating?
Yes, what normally happens is your bond rating is not reassessed automatically every year. It's reassessed when you go to apply for lending. So if we're applying for an actual bond, we would get rated at that time again. If we're applying for regular commercial lending, I'm not 100% sure how that will impact us. They asked for all the same information that the bond bank did when we were looking at the community center. It was a rather rigorous process for a short-term note. So I'm not sure how commercial lenders will look at it. I really can't answer that question without talking to some industry folks to figure that out. But I know on the bond side, it would just mean our rates would be higher until we recover from that and get our fund balance back up where it should be. And what you're looking at, the minimum is 13% of your operating expenses, maximum 16. You're looking to be in that 13 to 16% window to have that in your undesignated fund. Now keep in mind, we have a lot more than that in the bank, obviously, because we've gotten from January till now without any tax income and haven't exhausted our funds yet. However, a lot of that is money that's sitting in capital, which is obligated funds. So you can't utilize that to get out of this situation because you've already earmarked it for other things. That would include also our ARPA monies that we're still using to pay for the community center, et cetera. Those are all monies that were sitting in the bank. So while we have, at the beginning of the year, we're usually around $8 million in the bank. Not all of that is money that can be used for any other purpose. The majority of it is actually already earmarked for other purposes.
So again, that problem, even with I won't say an adverse, but a higher interest rate to pay, would then be paid out over the life of the bond, over a 5 or 10 or 15 years. So that piece of the pain is going to be spread downstream in smaller increments. I have no problem liquidating the investment account.
No,
We're not taxing
no.
people to save, to invest money.
That's right.
The fact that we have to, for a bond rating and for prudent financial, have enough of a fund balance to carry through 3 months of operating, which is what the foundation of going forward is that we can't operate with zero in the bank. So I see that as being reasonable, even if the bond takes a hit. We're still gonna have to go to town meeting with sackcloth and ashes and take a beating in order to explain this. And again, had we originally come out with the 1170, people were happy in the $10 to $11 range on the street prior to the reval being done. We caused that expectation to be ecstatic with what we gave for a number that turns out to be bad on the part of our vendor, from our vendor. And
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, seeing fire and police and public works here, do we have any large purchase items that are represented in either of those two columns that are likely to be impacted by the decision we make tonight?
Your ladder truck, although we won't start paying for that until 2029, but we were looking at ordering and signing the papers on it. So, and also if we're cutting capital, we won't have quite as much money to bring to the table when it comes time to actually make the purchase, so we will be borrowing somewhat more. Obviously, the biggest ticket item that we've got in capital is going to be the Main Street MPI project, which is a 2-year project. We can delay our other road maintenance, although, you know, people don't like the roads, the condition they're in now, so that's gonna cause a bit of angst, but, you know, if it's between that and having your mill rate go up, I can see people making that choice as well, so. You know, we do have quite a few accounts that we've been pre-funding, things that we know are coming in the future. So we can delay those. The danger in that is at some point we're gonna have to catch them up, you know, because we know that we've got, some of these things are going to have to be purchased within a certain amount of time. That's what our 5-year capital plan is for. Some of them can be put off, other ones are gonna be more critical. One of the critical ones is going to be our computers. We have approximately 17 right now that are not, I really was gonna replace them this year before this all happened, and now we're gonna delay. But we have several that are chronic blue screen, chronic, don't have enough memory. So those are gonna have to be upgraded. That's just our ability to do business.
So back to the ladder truck, just so I can understand it. Does this delay our process, or just result in the potential for it being more expensive?
I would say the latter. Because, again, since we aren't planning, if we order it today, we're looking at 48 months or so before.
42 to 51 months depending on.
And we don't have to pay an upfront cost.
We've been working, well, I don't know what they'll think
We've
of our
had-
situation, but.
We've had some initial discussions, which, one of the things we've been shooting for was the payment to come in about what we've been saving. And we've had some initial discussions on some lease purchase options that had come up with, to shoot into that same ballpark. There's different options. One of the recent lease purchase companies that had some initial quotes on, they had reached out to us and said, the numbers they had gave us was like very close. I think we put 150 away for the truck. It's one of them was 159, and that was at interest rates as of last June, I believe. And they actually, their recommendation was to, if we go forward in the future with the project, is to keep saving and wait and watch the interest rates, because they had predicted 2 more interest rates. And when you start talking like a bigger purchase, they say, you know, you're talking significant, you know, a half an interest point is significant savings. So like, they were actually, you know, saying that, you know, putting money away and saving and waiting, and then watch the market and sign on a lease purchase interest rate for, you know, the truck is. Cause like, there was like a $95,000 prepayment discount that was thrown out there, and the lender had said that they thought an interest rate change could overtake that, and you just keep our money in the bank until you sign that deal.
And that $150,000 isn't in either of these two. It's not in the investment account, and it's not in the fund balance account.
For the truck,
Right.
it is sitting in our capital reserves.
Yeah, okay.
That third
Yeah.
All right.
I would move the question.
Well, okay. Well, we have to vote on that, I guess.
Well, we need a motion first.
Yeah, I make a motion.
You make a
Make a
motion for
move option 2.
option 2. Been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second to go with option 2, which would require the use of $700,000 in fund balance, as well as a special town meeting. Fund balance will drop to $2.5 million. And it requires the liquidation of $600,000 investment account, setting the mill rate at 10.5. Any other questions and or comments?
just to be clear, the special town meeting is limited to the issue of
Yes,
going below the
yes.
recommended fund.
Authorizing, there'll be one
Authorizing.
question, is that's to authorize us to be able to expend this. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a question though. Are you going to want to have the bills produced immediately, or do you want to wait for the special town meeting? The risk is that if the town meeting did not approve the use of fund balance, we would be stuck with going back to the 1170, and we would have to send out supplemental bills if we
Yep.
had already sent them out. It's not a crisis, but
Yeah, I think we need to get the bills out probably as soon as we can.
I agree.
Because I'd like to, I'm thinking, I'd like to set the town meeting, if we vote this in, I'd like to set the town meeting 1 week from tomorrow. I know we had talked about waiting till the next selectmen's meeting, but I think we need to get it going faster than that.
as long as Diane can
Get
get
it in
everything
place.
we need to
Yeah,
get.
you know,
Well,
That was my question. To set a town meeting, you actually have to publish it, you have to put it.
I think
We need 7 days
days.
notice. The only difficulty there is that we need to have a place,
You're right.
because we don't have the community center.
Or sometime next week, you know, if Wednesday doesn't work, you know, Thursday, I don't wanna wait till the next meeting. You know, the soonest we can have it, I'd like to have it. I think we
Yeah.
need to.
Do we need to vote on the issue of the tax bills? Or make it part of this motion?
We can make it part of the motion if you want. Are you all right with
Yeah,
that?
included in the motion,
Okay.
The tax bills go out immediately.
yes.
That's an
The
amendment.
new
motion.
tax bills.
The 10
Yeah, the 10.
Yes, yeah,
yes.
because they've got to reprint the tax
Right.
bills. We
Yes.
don't have those printed yet, so.
Yep.
At this point. And again, the counter to that, if town meeting fails to do anything, then yes, everybody's gonna get an additional whack
Yep.
with a supplemental bill. So that, I'm not as fearful of that at this point. And again,
Okay.
I think we need to do it sooner
Yep.
rather than later.
You okay with that amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question, if we go ahead with a 10.5 and we present this to the town meeting, it's either nay or yay, they can bring it down, but they can't inflate it, so we can't lift it up. We can't increase it.
No, the town-
The amount.
They,
The town meeting isn't gonna vote on the mill rate at all. They're only gonna vote on the issue of the fund balance.
expending the fund balance.
Okay.
And which is granted awkward in that if they should decline, if they should not give us that authority, then
It comes back to us.
we have to come back and
Yep.
redo this. But,
Yep. Yep.
But we cut the baby.
but the
Yeah.
debate at the town meeting is not gonna be about the mill rate.
Right. So. Any other questions and no comments? Seeing that, all in favor? Thank you for that. Item number 4 is to approve the minutes of October 28th and November 3rd.
I move we approve the minutes.
I will second that.
Motion and a second to approve both sets of minutes. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Discuss other business, number 5. You have anything, Erica?
I do have a couple of things. Just to discuss how we want to move forward. I've already got the department heads and the library working on our fiscal year adjustment, but with the 6-month budget from January to June. We can, if the board wishes, delay that changeover for another year. We all know what the consequences of not going there are as far as our cash flow and all of that, but we've suffered this long. If there's an impression that it will cause too much confusion or pain, we can backpedal and go with the regular calendar year budget.
I don't know, I think we've set it in motion, I think we keep it in motion. I think that,
Whenever we do it, there's gonna be some
You know,
confusion.
I agree.
it will.
And you had said that you were gonna work on a really bare bones budget, and I understand that, and that's appropriate. But even though that's your goal, now you have an additional challenge of creating that budget, recognizing the impact of this decision tonight on potentially next year's mill rate. So yes, bare bones, but creative bare bones, not as bare as you might have expected, because you want to minimize the bump in the next tax bill and in the 2 tax bills after that. So this will be the first time anybody sees a 6-month tax bill. And I'm not suggesting that you put a lot of extra stuff into it, but I think the original goal of absolutely bare minimum in every category and figure it out in the fall really needs to not, that really can't be the strategy. It has to be a 6-month budget that feeds properly into the next year's budget in a way that makes that next mill rate discussion less painful for everybody. That's my view.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I think we need to go forward with that.
Okay.
You know, at this point. And we can discuss how much of an impact, how much we can creep up and
Right.
what the pros and cons are at the time when we get budget numbers in front of us.
I actually think by continuing with this, it's gonna make some of the pain a little less, because we're gonna be able to spread it out over longer amounts of time, so.
Putting things off doesn't help.
It doesn't.
As we saw with the reevaluation.
Yes, and that's, I can't guarantee it, but I will step out on a ledge and say I will almost guarantee that we will not wait another 20 years before we reval this town again. You know, this is a hard lesson for all of us.
Not a problem, I won't be here. I ain't got 20 years
I
left.
keep saying I won't be, but I don't know.
You never know, only the good die.
I mean,
Anything else?
keep in mind that we should be, by law, we should be doing them every 10 years.
10 years, the
Anyway,
state
10.
requires it every 10 years.
The only-
other state 5 years.
Yeah.
But
Ten's
the
bad
point
enough.
being that there hasn't been any teeth in it, which is why there's so many towns in the state who are so far behind. And I understand the smaller towns, it's an expensive project. I really don't understand some of the bigger cities that haven't done it. But I think our property values were so stable prior to the pandemic that the
Really didn't
certified
matter.
ratios weren't being impacted. So that impetus to get your revals done just wasn't there, except for in towns that were run by former assessors that kind of understood it. Really what we should be doing here forward, first of all, part of what Frank's task has to be is every year he needs to be looking at all of the properties in the town. So that means, putting the town into little sectors and saying, this month I'm gonna look over here, so that we're catching changes as they happen, obvious changes. We're not asking to go into anybody's house or anything like that, but if somebody's building, have that on the radar, so we know that's coming up. If there's new structures, if there's structures torn down, that type of thing. That's one thing we should be doing. And every 2 to 3 years, we should be doing a small statistical reval, which is not a full reval, but what it does is it raises every property category by a small percentage to keep up, so that when the full reval comes, it's not as painful.
By the law, assessors still need to collect sales transactions.
Right.
But for example, the minimum number, do that kind of sell ratio study, then apply whatever by category. So still.
We have to report that information to the Maine Revenue Services every year. So that part has to be done, we don't get away from that. So that's kind of the plan going forward, is to keep up with this and not ever get into this position where we're so far behind that these property values go up dramatically. Because I completely understand when someone looks at their property and says, this was valued at $30,000 before, and now you've got me at $190, what happened? The market does support that. I mean, you can't buy anything for 30,000 anymore. But I mentioned before that trailer that's at the end of my road that was on 3/4 of an acre for $255,000, a single wide, and it's sold as of this morning. The sign's gone. It was on the market for a month and a half. So, and the reason we're seeing those things sell is even though the market has kind of gone crazy, for the first-time home buyers and stuff, they just can't afford to get into what used to be a first-time house that might be a nice little 3-bedroom bungalow or something like that. Is just not even reachable anymore, because the market has gone haywire.
Is it feasible to mandate in our rules that we do it every 10 years, that we do a reval? total
You can
reval?
certainly pass either a policy, or you could even pass an ordinance if you wanted to take it to town meeting that requires that we follow the state law. I mean, it's redundant to the state law, but sometimes towns will do things with various issues just to make sure that they capitalize on saying, we will adhere to this.
I just would
Look at the future.
this, but
Yep.
now the state required, you cannot below the 70% value. If you do the racial study, you cannot overall the town value below
70.
market value. 70, if 70, they cannot give you whatever homestead exemption.
So we would lose the
Yeah,
entire
you would,
homestead
yeah,
exemption?
for example, this year, if we don't do the reval, our value gonna be only 50 point something value. So we have to do as average.
And we spent several years doing the absolute minimum to lower the tax rate every year, and guess what? Sooner or later, you gotta pay the price, because we were massaging it down instead of holding the line and creeping it up where it should have been.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Okay. And we
seemed
could,
like a
you
good
know,
idea at the time, but guess what?
Yeah.
We got a
Well,
chunk out of our hiney because it wasn't.
And this is something that we will be talking about down the road, how we're not gonna let this happen again. So that I can guarantee you. Yeah.
A question I have is that when the tax bills do come out, there are gonna be people who ask about the ability to question it or have it reevaluated. Is that, I mean, it's probably a lot of people are gonna do that, are gonna wanna have their property either looked at again or the tax bill looked again to adjust it. Is there a way to anticipate that? I mean,
That's extremely hard to anticipate, and even though we may have a lot of people ask for abatements,
yeah.
just because we had this problem with the mill rate doesn't mean that the market value that was placed on that property wasn't accurate. So there needs to be a basis for an abatement to happen, not just, I feel like it's unfair that my property quadrupled in value, because there's data to support why. Again, what brought us to this is not that the values were so far off, it was that the homestead, that number that they put in homestead in the tax rate, that gets pulled right off the top, because that's money you're anticipating getting back from the state. The state gives us 75% of the homestead value back, and Frank educated me on this yesterday, because I look at that tax rate form and there's only a couple of numbers on it that I actually comprehend.
That was the problem. That was
It's-
the number.
Yeah, that is the number that actually, when Tammy and I started looking, going, how could we possibly be this far off? We took 2024s and we put it next to 2025s, and obviously the total property value went up significantly, but the other numbers that went into it, everything else we had on there was like, yeah, that's our budget, that's the school, that's the county, those are what we said we were getting for revenues. The one number that was dramatically different was that homestead value. And actually, the Betty value was wrong too, but it was too low. But it wasn't low enough to make up for being that high on the homestead. So, so I don't want to set the expectation that everybody who asks for an abatement is going to get one, because that's just not reality. But there may be significant issues out there, such as we know we've got that overlay section along the commercial corridor that changed what used to be residential properties to commercial properties. That may need to be looked at for those property owners. The majority of people, though, the value is probably gonna stay the value. There's not that many properties that have significant challenges.
Value just subject to tune up, well, we need to refinement do, but, although KIT didn't do that good job, but this part, at least they set up the base. Okay, we still need to do individually, adjustment. So this is good, because whatever they use the same criteria, set up the, plan, basis for further work, so.
Something's gotta be wrong with the record card in order for the abatement to.
Well, that's,
Right.
well, overall, okay, but still, yes,
Yeah.
here, there. still
Wrong,
need to
wrong
be-
number on that, wrong
Correct.
size, wrong
Yeah.
porch, wrong garage, whatever.
Yep.
That's what makes the difference. But again, if you look at a $200,000 property last year, they paid at 2145, $4,290. At the 1050, assuming it doubles, a $400,000 house is gonna pay $4,020. So at this point, they're still within the range of what they paid last year.
Yep.
They're not in the range of what they hoped to get for a reduction this year.
Okay. So- All right. Anything else, Erica?
Just real quick, this is more just news.
Good news?
It's not bad news. So, it was funny though, because the governor was in the office today. If any of you have seen Facebook, she
Did
came
see
in and
that.
visited with Stella, our lovely office greeter dog, and took a great picture with her. But I thanked her. I was just coming out of a meeting for this state corrections. It's called the County Corrections Professional Standards Council. She appointed me to it, though she didn't remember appointing me to it, so I guess she just signed it. But I've been appointed to that based on my years working with the Sheriff's Department in Chesterfield, Virginia. I did a lot with jail funding, modeling, operations, so I have a very good understanding of jail operations. So I'm being appointed as the municipal agency representative. So there's 7 representatives. 2 are selected by the statewide Association of County Commissioners. 2 are selected from the statewide Association of Sheriffs. 1 is selected by membership of the MMA, or it could be MTCMA, but it's MMA that's driving this bus. And 2 are appointed at the commissioner's discretion. So I am that MMA appointee. So that's going to be meetings the 2nd Thursday of every month in the morning via Zoom. There's 1 meeting per year out of the office, but it may also require some testifying at the legislature when it comes time to vote on things that come out of the recommendations. So hopefully it'll be helpful in that, a large part of the county budget is the jail, which impacts our budgets here. So, and part of the emphasis of this council is that what it costs to operate a jail under the current state requirements is a lot more than what they're being provided for state funding. So.
Perfect.
Should we congratulate you for this, or?
I'm not sure yet, I'll let you know.
Yes.
Time will tell.
All right, go ahead.
For Jen,
Yes.
the light, the sign in front of the community center,
Has been working for the last 2 weeks, posting that voting was moved, and then literally because of all the wind today, it didn't matter how much I played with the breaker, so I did go to the building, and normally it's flicking the breaker off, counting to 30, flicking it back on, and it's good. It was not, did not do it today like normal, but it was up for 2 weeks, posted that voting was somewhere else. And of course, the day of is when it goes out.
of course, and it is now fixed.
No, I wasn't going to call somebody on a windy day to fix it and pay an emergency bill when funding is supposed to be not paying
I
big
thought Jimmy would go down and fix
money.
it.
No, we actually have to call TAC to
Yeah.
come fix it. So we'll be calling later.
We had him the first time, and that's why when the wind blows,
Yeah.
it's.
But I'm like, it's just gonna stay windy all day, so I'm like, there's no point in, I didn't wanna pay a emergency running out for people when we checked it. I'll check it again in the morning, and if it doesn't fix on its own, then I'll call somebody.
We won't need it tomorrow anyway.
I know, right? Everybody will be happy again.
I think probably we should have it looked at no matter what, because if
Yeah.
it's tripping the
It
breaker.
normally literally goes back on within 30 seconds. It even.
Right, but
Like
even
to
so,
get
the
tired.
fact that wind is enough to trip it, that's an issue. So we can
Yeah.
have that looked at.
Yeah.
The building is swayed.
Yeah.
It's a separate sign.
Physically, it happened to the sign that makes the wind affected.
I have no idea. It's not mine.
It's probably
So I'm not an electrician.
more than
so-
likely, there's something,
Right.
that
It does it
shorts
to
out.
Mallet School as well. Theirs will go out on windy days. I think it honestly is just something with internet and technology and stuff, because Mallet School's right across. Even though we're different, I believe we're different companies, their sign will go out on a windy day as well. So I don't know if it just has more to do with those types of signs sometimes. I don't know. We're special there.
We're good taxpayers.
But while I'm talking real quickly, on other business, so probably have heard Sargent is buying, but thinking MPI project should still not be affected too greatly by that is what Phil and I discussed earlier today. So they're out of Old Town and they work as far as like Virginia and have, I think, 300 to 400
Big
different
company.
employees and stuff, but he's worked with them on other things and hopefully it'll be a smooth transition.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
Kevin and Judy get to sail off into a nice
I know,
retirement.
go
They-
enjoy
They certainly
themselves.
deserve it, that's for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but-
Hate to see him go.
I
Have
know.
anything, Randy?
I do not.
I assume that we are going to get a new tax calculation sheet with this information coming back to the.
actually, we
council.
already have it prepared.
Yeah, okay. I for one would like to see it.
Yep.
So at this point.
Can send that out, Frank. The the new sheet that has the 1050 rate on it.
Tax rate
We
calculation.
just
book.
put into you the trail to regenerate.
Right, but they're gonna want copies of it.
Yeah,
So, that's a yes.
I like paper.
Yeah.
Paper is my friend.
Just kudos to the staff in terms of voting today.
Mm.
At least from my perspective, it really went well. It was well set up. People seemed pretty positive about it. We had a super turnout, so kudos to Farmington for its civic responsibility and, very, just great operation.
It was a good venue in reality.
Yeah, no, that was a good deal for us. And but I don't think I've got anything, other than, well, I will say this. What we did tonight is gonna create some upheaval, and I understand that. I just ask everybody, if you need to yell at somebody, call one of us. Leave our office staff alone. It's not their fault. Call me, I don't care. But leave our office staff alone. It's not their fault, okay? They're doing what we direct them to do.
Absolutely.
So, that's all I would just ask.
Yep.
I mean, most people are pretty good, but you just never know. So, do we need a motion to set a town meeting for next week?
I don't believe so, but.
Okay, but I think we agree, we want to set it as soon as
Yeah.
possible.
Sooner rather
Yeah,
than later.
we
Okay.
agreed to that.
Tax
Yeah.
bills as soon as possible.
I mean, you'll have to
Yep.
sign off on the warrant, which is basically you all
Yep,
saying that, yeah, we're gonna have this meeting.
yep, okay,
Because
perfect.
next week, a week from today is Veterans Day.
Right, and I don't think we ought to do that. I think, I'd like to do a week from Wednesday, just because it's
Yeah,
It has to be posted 7
7
days.
7 days, so probably Thursday.
Right.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, about Thursday probably. We'd shoot for Thursday. So,
Okay.
all right, sounds good.
Motion, we adjourn.
Motion adjourned, there's been a motion, is there a second? A motion and a second, questions, comments, seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. I do not wait very long on that one. All right, that's off the meeting.
Let the beating begin.
We're gonna do that.
We're gonna do it.
Yeah, we should. Let's go up here.
You're such a pragmatist.
Yep.
Look at that.